Welcome to this video about my basics of holistic health. This is a series of 3 videos. In this video, we're going to be talking about the absolute basics, let's say like a meta thing on this whole thing. The second video will be about thought patterns, so specifically about mental ways of dealing with things. And the third video will be about corporal health. The first category I want to start with is you are in focus. The first point on this is remember, and in case you don't know yet, maybe try and get an understanding of you are a child of the divine. Seeing it from this perspective has a lot of implications. And it's not about religion or saying you're a child of this God with a long white beard or something. It's a different thing. I can't go into too much detail in this video here, but you may find other sources where you can understand how this is a really important element of understanding your role in all of this and who you are and what you are. So this is why I want to mention this as the absolute first point in all of these 3 videos. So remember, you're a child of the divine. You are loved and you're being cared for, and everything that happens for you. Everything. The first question you should ask yourself is, for whom are you doing what you are doing? Are your actions really motivated intrinsically? Or is it an external factor that drives you to do certain things? And I recommend that you reflect on whether the motives behind your actions are actually your own motives, or whether they come from someone else. And along with this goes the ability to say no. It's really important because there is this trait that a lot of people have, maybe everybody to a certain degree, is that we want to make others happy, and so we, especially at work, we may say yes when we actually don't have the energy or the time, or we don't want to do certain things. So learn to say no and set your boundaries so that others don't cross your boundaries or draw more energy from you than you actually want to. It's a really important skill. Yeah, some of my favorite truths here is find your own truth. And always question everything that other people have told you. It's something that, for me, the recent years, I've incorporated this as some kind of a filter. So it's like a background program running in my mind that whenever I hear any information, automatically this background program checks and sorts it into a certain category of, okay, this is what someone else has said. This is not my own experience. It may be true, but it may not be true. And I think it's a really important thing to distinguish between your own experience, which is something that I personally would say, if you don't have wrong interpretations of what happened, that this is your truth. How can you get closer to truth than that? Let's say someone tells you that we landed on the moon. Well, it's a nice story, but first of all, you haven't experienced that. And just because everybody tells you that doesn't mean it's true. So I strongly encourage you to question absolutely everything. I mean, not just things like the moon landing, which is a basic thing to question, and 9/11 and whatnot. There are a lot of things. The main thing is take control back about what is your truth. And learn that there's a big difference between something that you read in a book or that you heard on a YouTube video, between that and your own experience. So may it be a teacher, a guru, a doctor, someone that says he's God, it doesn't matter. It's just a story, and you decide whether you accept that story or not, or how much you let this story enter your system. There is always a possibility of checking this, and it's really important because these beliefs will eventually drive your whole system and determine a lot of things in your life. So be aware of what kind of information you let into your system and what kind of information you just block from the very second someone says something. Another really important skill that I encourage in a lot of my videos to have is self-reflection. Many videos on this channel are about self-reflection because I think it's a skill that we don't really get taught a lot, yet it's one of the most fundamental things that you need to have in order to steer your life, even just on the material level, but also on the spiritual level. Especially on the spiritual level, you have to have this skill. If you don't have this skill, forget it. I don't know, it's just not possible. So if you want to grow in whatever way, I would say at a certain point you will have to have self-reflection skills. To a certain degree you have, but there's a lot of subtleties and things you can learn. So this is something you should look at. And in the same, how do you say, like in the same go, be honest with yourself. It kind of goes hand in hand, because what does it help? If you try to change something in your life, but you're not being honest with yourself or with other people, because on that basis like everything can come out from this. Whereas if you're honest to yourself and assess your situation as it is, you have a proper base of starting. You can go somewhere from this starting point, you know. So let's say you weigh 140 kilogram. Okay, you're fat. Just acknowledge the fact. It's not like there's no judgment, whatever. Just be honest with yourself. That's how it is. Okay. Maybe I want to change something about it. But if you say, nah, I'm fine, I'm feeling healthy, I like my body as it is. I mean, where are you going from there? Maybe you're not going anywhere. So if you really want to tackle your problems, if you really want to grow, if you, whatever, like, be honest with yourself. Otherwise, nothing good comes out of it. Train your intuition and listen to your needs. I think the intuition is something that usually we don't access a lot, but it's possible to train your intuition. I mean, it's already there. It's just a question of, can you be calm enough to listen to it? You can also actively connect to it. It may be a bit more advanced, and I'm not claiming that I can do it all the time, but I think I learned that there's a possibility to actively connect with it and then actively immediately get feedback from it. I'm saying this because it connects with the first point of, is that your own truth? Is that what you really want? Where are you going? Your intuition is always on your side. I mean, if that's not on your side, then I don't know, like what kind of higher information or what kind of being would be on your side if it's not your intuition. Even if you say it's information that doesn't come from outside of your body, but even if you think, and that's valid to think, it just comes from your body, that's also fine. I think there is several layers of intuition. One is actually your bodily intelligence, and the other, like a higher thing, is even beyond your body. It doesn't matter. I would say, from my experience, intuition is always on your side, and it's superior to your intellect. And that is something really important to see, because there may be a tendency for certain people to think that their intellect is, oh my God, I'm so smart and blah, blah, blah. And you come up with all sorts of like solutions and plans. I mean, it's mostly about planning, just to realize that you ran against a wall. And listening to your intuition would have given you a better path, a better result, and overall just better performance. And I learned that a few times, so now I know that my intuition is on my side, and just be aware that it's a thing and listen to your needs, because it's kind of connected. Your intuition tries to tell you where you should go and where you should not go. And not listening to that will, let's say, take away energy from you, or you will get worse results than if you were to listen to it. So it's a very good compass. I mean, also your body is a good compass, but whether you say it comes from a body or from above, be aware this compass is there and follow it. Nobody treads the path for you, and nobody can solve your problems for you. It's really important to take your might, so to say, your efficiency, your effectiveness in life. Take it back from the outside, take it back from other people, and take responsibility. And then you become, I'm not sure if more powerful is the right word. Like, don't get me wrong, here it's not about manipulating people and controlling people, but it's about owning your life, like owning your experience. And you should be absolutely clear that nobody solves your problems for you. They can give you impulses. Like if you think of a doctor or someone else, they may give you impulses, or gurus, or me, or whoever. But you are the only one who can solve your problems. Because also, on a side note, you are the one who created the problems in the first place. There are no problems in the outside. So you created them, and you're the only one who can solve them. The good thing about this is that these challenges are exactly the way for you to grow. So it's not just, oh, why are there so many problems for me? Just reframe it as a challenge, or as something to grow upon. And I guess you will see that once you overcome these things, you have grown bigger and stronger. But you have to take the responsibility and don't give it to other people. Take it back to yourself. The next category I call the point of view. There may be some overlapping things to the second video, but I tried to kind of divide it as much as I could. But anyway, maybe hear it twice instead of not hearing it at all. So, point of view. Energy follows your attention. If you look at something with a negative ground feeling, so to say, if you have a grudge on something, if you're overly angry, like long-term angry, whatever, if you say, oh, you intentionally did that just to hurt me, like if you have this kind of attitude, these kind of things will grow. But if you look at things with, let's say, gratitude, or with maybe even with the knowledge that you don't know, your energy will give you more of this, because you will have a tendency to see more of this in your life. So instead of just crying about chemtrails all the time, which will give you like black thoughts, so to say, just maybe make the next step and say, okay, actually, I don't know. Actually, I don't know what's happening there. And another step would be, oh, I'm grateful for everything that happens, because it happens the way it's supposed to be. So maybe a topic where it's a bit more graspable or something would be that if you play an instrument and you play it repeatedly, then of course your skills in that will grow. And it's very similar. Or if you just go to the gym or whatever, your muscles will grow. And I see it in a similar fashion. So if your attention lies on negative things, whatever that may be, then these things will grow, and they will be in your mind. And depending on what you put your attention to, it can really darken your mind, or it can brighten it up. and it's really up to you. It's a really important skill that, especially nowadays, I think it has never been this important to have this skill of choosing where your attention goes than nowadays, because there's an information flood and you can get sucked into topics everywhere, social media, news, TV, games, everything. And it's really important to use or to learn that skill of deliberately choosing where your attention goes. Energy follows your attention. Even the longest journey starts with a single step. So you can say, yeah, it's quite a big task, whatever there's ahead of you, right? And maybe you have no idea how long it takes. But as you mature, I guess you more develop this seeing the way in terms of, well, it's about the journey anyway, and not about reaching a certain goal and then staying there forever. It's like life is always in movement. So to be happy, you have to be in movement in a certain way. Otherwise, it's stagnation. So even if you see there's like a path, like a goal you want to reach, and you know it's a long path, anyway, it starts with a single step. So just one step after the other. Just plan, okay, on this day, what am I going to do today? And if you divide a big task into smaller tasks that you know, okay, I can handle this, then step by step, you will also reach your goal. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, really, because it's about the journey. Think long term, have patience, and be realistic. I think all of these are pretty self-explanatory. Thinking long term, I mean, I'm pretty sure you heard of studies about depression and happiness, where it's bad for your brain if you just get these small kicks of, what is it? Dopamine, serotonin, I don't even know like the molecule names exactly, but you know, where like a cocaine shot or whatever, where you have this short period where you enjoy certain things, but there's no long lasting effect. Like you didn't really change anything about yourself. It's just like an external fix. So thinking long term, yeah, for me it's like really obvious. There's also this, this experiment with the children who have like a chocolate in front of them, and they are told, well, I'm leaving the room now. If it's still there when I return in 10 minutes, you get another piece of chocolate. And studies found that the children who can actually wait and not eat the chocolate, long-term studies have shown that later in life, these children will be more happy and more fulfilled. And there's a correlation to long-term thinking. Whereas the children who just eat it, and then I remember a kid saying, someone came into the room and then he ate it. So these kids will have worse conditions in the long run. And for me, thinking long-term is something that I do anyway. Like I can't even think short-term. So yeah, and be realistic. Of course, there are certain things that will just take some time. Maybe certain things you cannot achieve here in your life with the remaining time that you have, maybe. But you can be realistic and just walk anyway, even if you think I may never reach it. Because if you understand that it's about the journey and not about reaching the goal, it doesn't matter anyway. And patience, of course. When certain things just take more than a week to do, then of course you need the skill of patience. Work continuously and establish healthy habits. Habits are a big part of how we act during each day. And being aware of what your habits are, self-reflecting again here, is a necessary step towards improving on your life. And I noticed that, of course, the habits you have, at some point they have been created, maybe subconsciously or unconsciously, but you can also create them consciously. And that's something I can encourage you to do. In general, I mean, without pointing to a specific area where to do it. But I guess like if you do something for 21 days, that's the number I heard most often. If you do it consecutively for 21 days, they say that this establishes a habit in your mind. And yeah, so don't just do it, once a month or something. I mean, something that's really important, you should put your attention on it and then do it every day. Be flexible. I always have this image of a bamboo when I'm thinking of being flexible, because if you're very stiff, if you're very hard and you don't really change your point of view or your behavior or anything, I imagine a dry stick, and when the wind comes, it would just break. And that's not something that, I mean, symbolically, of course, that should happen with you. You should be swaying with the wind, and you should bend if there's external forces you cannot control. You should kind of go with the flow, like Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. And I think that's a really important thing. It's this water element, water quality. It has its own advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's really important because there are so many things in the external world which you have no influence over. But if you always stand on your point of view and you don't change your perspective, you will notice at some point it will become kind of unbearable, and you would have to invest a lot of energy to fight, in a sense, what is on the outside. And then you're just wasting your energy against something where you could just go with the flow a bit more. So I guess it's a really important skill. Learn to accept things as they are. What it means is not to accept anything and don't say your opinion or something, but first of all, learn to distinguish between, is whatever happens to you or happened to you, is that something that you can change or not? If it's something you cannot change, don't waste your energy on it. Because what is it good for? You will really, literally just waste your resources. You will waste your attention, your energy, you will have all sorts of negative feelings that you don't want. So yeah, it's just a kind of a stupid way of dealing with what is. And in the bigger picture, that's what we do all the time, resisting what is. And the spiritual path is a lot about letting all of this go. Not to say that these things do not exist, like not to say that nobody will ever yell at you or you will never yell, but it's about just letting it flow through you. And also don't become identified with anything really. So I guess it goes also hand in hand with the flexibility thing. And the ego, identification with the ego, you may be aware of this. It's a big, complex topic. And I think acceptance is a key to understanding all of this. Yeah, even the darkest night is followed by a bright day. You may also have heard the term the dark night of the soul. I mean, yes, there will always be depressing phases, difficult phases in your life. But I recently heard the saying that even the darkest hour just has 60 minutes, right? So all of this, there will be a point in your life where all of this goes away. And that should give you hope. And also, I mean, if you're listening to this right now, be aware you are here. You made it through all of this. Whatever happened in your life, you are here and you made it. So all of these sorrows and let's say, doubts and whatever you had in your past, what good was it really for if you are here now? You made it. You made it to this video. You made it to this point in your life. It's awesome. Congratulations. Miscellaneous. I hope I pronounced that word correctly. I always had my difficulty with this word. Establish balance. I think this is also one of these really, really big key factors that is there. To have a balance and never stick with an extreme. You can try out different extremes, but I don't think there's any, let's say, extreme that you can uphold for a very long time. I think this whole path is always about balance. And I mean, you also know it from your body. So if you're sick, what does it mean? It means something has come out of balance in your system. For example, you have become too cold. And then you get the flu or whatever. Or you dehydrate. That's also out of the balance in terms of how much water do you need. Whereas you can also die if you drink too much water. So everything in life is always about balance. And you can basically apply this to any situation that you have and any corporal thing, mental thing, activity, people in your life, music, whatever. It's always about balance. Yeah, something that I don't want to explain in all the detail here. I made a video about this. It's about understanding the relationship between the inside and the outside. Like whatever you call the outside, and like you see a distinction between the outside and the inside is not really there. That's something to understand or to grasp. Yeah, go check out the video on this, because here in this video it's just a reminder that this is a really important thing. The outside and your inside are not disconnected from each other. Be happy. I mean, what does every being strive for? Every being wants to be happy. I haven't heard anyone say the opposite. So whatever you do, wherever you're striving towards, always be reminded that I'm pretty sure this is where you want to be. You want to be happy. You can't be happy all the time. That's not what it's about. But just remind yourself, as I'm doing right now, to be happy. And you're not here just to work your ass off or to make someone else happy, but it's about you being happy. Yeah. Important point. Just remember it. Prevention is better than some treatment afterwards. It saves you a lot of time. You are not your past. Some people really identify with their traumas and their problems. And, oh, I'm like this because in my childhood my dad did blah, blah, blah. Well, it may be true that X, Y, Z happened, but why are you still behaving as if this is the actual reality? Let's say you were beaten up and now you feel like always weak. Just right now, just from now on, you can just choose to behave differently. Why would you always stick with the old patterns? I mean, of course, it's not always that easy, but it starts with the realization that just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it can change in the future. And some people seem to be quite fatalistic about this, or let's say feel like things cannot change. I strongly oppose. And you can also, how do you say this? Be at peace with whatever happened in the past. Here's another key. If you can forgive any person, whatever he or she did, that also frees up a lot of energy from your system. Because if you have the understanding that whatever they did they also did from their highest potential at that point in time, how can you really say it's their fault or something? Because if they could have done better, they would have done better. Same as with you. You're not different from them. It's the same pattern, let's say. So learn to forgive if you're still clinging to your past. And maybe de-identify with your traumas, with your problems. That is not who you are. You are here right now, and while you're listening to my voice, you will notice that these things do not exist. You can just refresh this story, you can feed this story about you, which is not true. If you say you were abused, right now in this moment, it's not true. Right now in this moment, this energy is not there. So you can be at peace with all of this. And that's what it's about. I'm not saying it's easy or just do like this and it's gone. But what I'm talking about here is the basis, the fundamentals of this. Then there's this principle of simplicity. I just want to create this thought experiment. Let's say you have like building blocks, 3 on the left side and 2 on the right side, and there's a small bridge on top. And you have additional basic building blocks lying around, and now your task is to level the bridge. What most people would do naturally is they take one of those building blocks lying around, putting it on the right side, so you have 3 on the left and 3 on the right side, and the bridge is leveled. But what you can also do is just take away one of the blocks from the left side, or you can take also all of these blocks away and just put it on the table. Because what happens if you keep adding more and more things? If you have 15 blocks on the left side and 15 on the right, this is going to be a quite unstable system. And to become less abstract, imagine you have some kind of a disease, and now you run to a doctor wanting to fix you, and he gives you some pills because easy solution. Then these pills cause another disease, and then you need to take additional pills, and in the end you add up with a chemotherapy and you fucking die because you have never really looked at the core of your problem. So instead of adding more and more things, omit them and remove things from your life. Make it more simple, make it more clean and clear. Trust life. I mentioned this a few times during this video, but this is now an extra point. I also made a video about this. It's definitely helpful for your system and more healthy if you have the perspective and the viewpoint of life or the universe or whatever is always on your side. I kind of understood it mentally at first, and then I had some kind of experience a few years ago where I was actually like, I was just knowing that this is a fact and feeling it. But still, it kept, like, it stayed with me. Once you have this understanding, it's like you know it's definitely more true than what you thought before, that like blah 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 is against you, life is against you, whatever, because it's not true. It's just an illusion, and you can overcome this illusion that there's anything really against you. Go watch my video on this, because I think it's really fundamental, a really fundamental thing, and one of the most basic settings that you can kind of do in your operating system that you have. See body, mind, and soul as a unit. I want to explain that I have my issues with the word soul, because from my understanding, I'm not even really sure what people mean when they say it. I'm saying this here because it's a kind of a well-known term. What I mean with soul here, and what most people seem to mean with it, is basically your emotions that you have. So all of these things are connected. Like what you think about, how you view the world, how your body feels, and your emotions. All of these are intertwined and interconnected. The good thing about the good thing about it is that you can change something on one end and it will also change on the other ends. Of course, if you want to build up muscles, then I would recommend going to a gym, like working on the body level. But this will also have an effect on your mental level and on your emotions, right? Or, I mean, that's the whole idea of asanas in yoga, that the asana also has an effect on your mental activities. And I just want to shortly mention it here because so many people get it wrong. Yoga is not about the postures. The postures in yoga are called yogasanas. And it's a tiny, 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 tiny thing of what yoga actually is. The idea of yogasanas is you have a healthy body and you can hold a stable posture to meditate. That's why people, like, I mean, from the Indian yoga system, that is why they do yogasanas. And I just want to mention it here because so many people get it wrong. It's unbelievable. Explore alternative healing methods. There's so many healing methods out there, and I mean, chances are, if you're watching this video right now, you're already kind of beyond this point where you trust in mainstream medicine, because you may have understood that they will not provide solutions really, and they would just look at the surface and try to cure symptoms, but not the root. And these so-called alternative healing methods, I mean, actually they're not really alternative, they're just like, maybe let's say proper healing methods, or healing methods on a very different level or different layer of reality maybe. For example, constellation work or shamanic work or some LSD that you can take, or mushrooms or ayahuasca. All of these things work completely different from what the mainstream medicine tells you. And if your problem cannot be solved with the mainstream medicine, then what are your options? Of course, go to the alternative healing methods. And there are so many of them, and some of them I'm also talking about in my channel. And I just recommend you check these things out and be really open, because something may sound like voodoo or whatever, but if you realize, if you don't have any experience with it, just be open for it, and make some experience with it before judging a method. Afterwards you can still say, oh, it's not really my way of dealing with things, but be open and try different things out. The last point of this category is understand what ego is, what it means. At least if you want to grow spiritually. But even on the, let's say, social level, it can be very helpful. It's a concept, in a sense, of course, as everything is a concept. But if you invest some time into understanding what it is and how you are connected with ego, you can solve a lot of your problems, and you can also grow spiritually. There's way too much to explain here about what the ego is. So yeah, the internet is full of that stuff. So if you haven't done it, go check out what is the ego and why is it a problem. Thank you very much for staying this long and watching this video. I hope it was really helpful for you. In case you found it helpful, which I hope, I invite you to forward this video to your friends, family, and whoever you may think this may be helpful for. And if there's anything I forgot, because there's so many things on the topic of holistic health, if you watched all of these 3 videos that I have, just leave a comment in any one of those. If I forgot something, that would be really helpful, because I'm also thinking of a follow-up video, and having your comments would definitely improve the quality of that video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. And I hope that I will see you in the second part of this trilogy, where it's about thought patterns and all the mental things, your perspective on things. Thanks a lot again, and see you in the next video.